Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you're joining me. Thank you for your time, and let's dive straight into learning Menachot, Menachot Menachos, Tractate Menachos, Daf 48 Amud B. So coming from the last one, and the last Amud, if not, one cannot save any wine that is teruma, e.g. if one does not have any pure vessel which is collected. Rabbi Eliezer says the teruma wine should be allowed to descend and become impure on its own, meaning ruining the non-sacred wine in the lower press. But one should not render it impure through its direct action by catching it in an impure vessel, even though catching it would prevent the wine that is teruma from mixing with his impure non-sacred wine. And Rabbi Yeshua says, since the wine that is teruma will become impure in any event, one may even render it impure through his direct action. So what does that mean? Ena biyad, render impure through his direct action biyad. Some early commentaries translate biyad literally to mean with his hand. They explain that it's permitted to render the teruma impure specifically by touching it with one's hands, because one's hands are impure by rabbinic law and not by Torah. One may not render the teruma impure through contact with an impure vessel, which is impure by Torah, and that's in the Rambam Sefer Zeraim for teruma 12:4. Others understand it to mean that he may render it impure actively and directly, even with impure vessels, says Rashi, in order to save his non-sacred wine. This indicates that according to Rabbi Yeshua, it is permitted to sin with regard to one matter, i.e. the wine that is teruma, in order to gain with regard to another matter, i.e. the non-sacred wine. The Gemara responds, it is different there. In the case of wine, because the wine that is teruma is going to become impure, Shnei Hasam Truma Ka Azla. The commentaries explain that Rabbi Eliezer disagrees, even though the wine that is teruma will become impure in any event, despite the fact that he allows one to bring the mixture of limbs up to the altar. The reason for this distinction is that in the latter case, one fulfills the mitzvah of burning the limbs of the burnt offering of the altar, whereas in the case of teruma, there is a financial loss involved. Although there is a financial loss involved, there is no mitzvah that one fulfills through rendering the teruma impure to Hot HaKodesh. And the consequence of this action is not considered a sin, and this is not a case of sinning with regard to one matter in order to gain in another. The Gemara continues its discussion of the sheep of Shavuot. When Rabbi Yitzchak came from Eretz Yisrael to Babylonia, he reported traditions that he learned in Eretz Yisrael, and he taught a braita with regard to a case of the two sheep of Shavuot, where one slaughtered them not in accordance with their mitzvah. Kivshei asever shechatan shelo kemitzvason. Rashi interprets this phrase to mean that they were slaughtered not for their own sake. Rashi also cites an additional interpretation in the name of the Gaonim, which is that the sheep are in their second year rather than being in their first year. Rashi rejects interpretation because the qualification is in such a case is not a function of how they were slaughtered, and the formulation should have been the two sheep of Shavuot that one brought not in accordance with their mitzvah. Rabbeinu Gershom Mohagol and Tosfot accept the interpretation of the Gaonim and explain that the Tana mentioned the slaughtering rather than stating only that they were brought not in accordance with their mitzvah, in order to include the other cases, e.g. when the offering is sacrificed at the wrong time. As also note in the Tosefta, the halacha is actually formulated as if the two sheep of Shavuot were not in accordance with their mitzvah. E.g. he slaughtered them for the sake of a different offering. They are disqualified, and they should be left overnight until their form decays. This translation is in accordance with Rashi, who explains that when the Gemara states that an offering should be left until its form decays, it means it should be left overnight so it becomes disqualified as leftover sacrificial meat which must be burned. The reason the offering is not burned right away is that it will be considered degrading to the offering. Once it is left over, since all leftover sacrificial meat is burned, it is no longer degrading to burn it. Leaving the offering overnight is referred to as letting its form decay, because the meat starts to decay when it's left overnight, makes us David. Others understand the phrase literally and hold that it means that the offering is left for several days until the meat actually spoils and changes form. Rabbeinu Hanan on Pesachim 34a and 73b, Rambam's commentary on the Mishnah on Tractate Pesachim, and they attain the stage of leftover sacrificial meat, and then they are brought out to the place designated for burning. Rashi notes that there is a distinction between two categories of disqualifications. In a case where the disqualification pertains to the state of the offering itself, e.g. where the offering was rendered pigal or impure and the offering is burned immediately. In a case where the disqualification is external, e.g. where the offering was disqualified because it was slaughtered not for its own sake, it must be left overnight before it is burned. The Naaman said to Rav Yitzchak, the master, Rav Yitzchak, compared the sheep Shavuot to a sin offering because they are juxtaposed in a verse. Leviticus 23:19 teaches a sheep are disqualified, like the sin offering that was slaughtered not for its own sake. By contrast, the Tana of the school of Levi, what does that mean? Tana of Levi, even when the sages permitted writing the Old Torah, most of it was not recorded until later. In fact, some say that the Mishnah itself was not written at the time of its redaction. Therefore, many rabbinic statements such as the Tosefta and the Braithot were preserved and transmitted orally. Each sage was expected to commit the entire Mishnah as well as a significant number of other Tanaic statements to memory. Their complete mastery of all these sources were the province of Amoraic sages called Tanaim. Experts who memorized massive amounts of material and were capable of reciting it on demand. Often the most prominent of these Tanaim were affiliated with the specific study hall of one of the sages, where they served as living anthologies of this material. One such study hall was that of Levi ben Sissi, one of the sages of Eretz Yisrael in the transitional generation of Tanaim and Amoraim. He was one of the preeminent disciples of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, who derives the halacha with regard to an obligatory peace offering, e.g. the two sheep of Shavuot, from the halacha concerning a voluntary peace offering, teaches that the two sheep remain valid offerings, just as voluntary peace offerings remain valid even if it is slaughtered for the sake of a different offering, as Levi teaches. And with regard to the other peace offerings of a Nazarite, one slaughtered not in accordance with their mitzvah, peace offerings of a Nazarite that one slaughtered not for their own sake does not satisfy the obligation of their owners, but they are eaten for 1 day and 1 night. They do not require bread. In the contrary opinion of Levi, Rambam Sefer Avodah Hilchot Pesulim Kedushin 15:20. They are valid offerings like voluntary peace offerings, but they do not satisfy the obligation of the owner to bring the required Nazarite peace offerings. And these offerings are eaten for only 1 day and 1 night. Although they have the state of voluntary peace offerings, they are not eaten for 2 days and 1 night like other peace offerings. Rather, they are eaten for the same amount of time as the meat of a peace offering of a Nazarite. And according to halacha concerning the peace offerings of Nazarite, and not for 2 days and 1 night like voluntary peace offerings, they require neither bread nor the foreleg. Some understand this to mean that there is no need for bread or for the waving on the foreleg that is generally performed on the Nazarite offerings in Nazarite ram as a peace offering. Although the ram was slaughtered not for its own sake, is still treated according to the stringency of a peace offering with Nazarite, and then it may be eaten only for 1 day and 1 night. The halacha concerning the bread and foreleg do not apply because this offering will not free the Nazarite from the restriction of Nazarite ship. There is some derive this halacha from the verse, and the priest shall take the shoulder and 1 leavened cake and 1 unleavened wafer, and shall put them upon the hands of the Nazarite. Numbers 6:19 teaches that they are brought only when the Nazarite waves them by hand upon the conclusion of his Nazariteship. That's what on Nazir 24a. Others hold that their bread is brought but not waved as it usually is, and the foreleg is given to the priest but is not waved. The verse said to Rabbeinu Yitzchak. Rabbeinu Tam explains this to mean that the foreleg does not have the status of the cooked foreleg of the Nazarite ram. Normally, although the foreleg may be eaten only by priests, it may be cooked together with the rest of the meat of the ram, eaten by the Nazarite even if he is not a priest. In the case of this ram, the foreleg may not be cooked together with the rest of the meat of the ram. The Meiri. Not require a piece of a Nazarite. And the Gemara raised an objection to the opinion of Rav Yitzchak from that which is taught in the Braithot. In a case where one is obligated to sacrifice as a guilt offering an animal in its first year, which Torah calls a lamb, and instead he brought an animal in its second year. If one is obligated to sacrifice a guilt offering an animal in its first year, and instead he brought one that was in its second year, or vice versa, it is disqualified and should be left overnight, and then it is brought out to the place of burning. 4:26, which is considered a lamb, or if he is obligated to sacrifice a guilt offering an animal in its second year, and one animal in its first year, the offering is disqualified. They are to be left overnight until their form decays, and they are brought out of the place designated for burning. But in the case of the burning offering of a Nazarite, i.e. the lamb that is sacrificed, when he completes his Nazariteship, or the burnt offering of a woman after childbirth, i.e. the lamb she sacrificed on the 41st day after giving birth to a son, or on the 81st day after giving birth to a daughter, or the burning of a leper, i.e. the lamb that is sacrificed after he is purified. In all of these cases, if the animals were in their second year instead, and was taught them, the offerings are valid. Shu b'nei shinim. If one slaughtered a lamb that was 12 months and 1 day old for the burnt offering of a Nazarite, a woman after childbirth, or a leper, it is valid and requires libations. So the Mishnah adds that it does not satisfy the obligation of its owners, and they must bring another burnt offering. That's from the Rambam Sefer Vod Hilchot Menachot Daf 4:27. The Bible concludes the principle of the matter is any animal that is valid as a voluntary burnt offering is also valid as an obligatory burnt offering. An animal that is disqualified as a sin offering is also disqualified as a guilt offering, except for an offering that was sacrificed not for its own sake, which is disqualified in the case of a sin offering but not a guilt offering. This demonstrates that the halacha of obligatory burnt offerings are derived from those of voluntary burnt offerings, despite the fact that the burnt offering of a Nazarite is juxtaposed to the sin offering of a Nazarite, see number 6:14, and the burnt offering of a leper opposed to the sin offering of a leper, see Leviticus 14:19. Similarly, the halacha pertaining to the sheep of Shavuot, which are obligatory peace offerings, should be derived from the halacha pertaining to voluntary peace offerings, and not from the halacha pertaining to a sin offering, as Rav Yitzchak holds. The Gemara answers, this Tana who taught this Baita is the Tana of the school of Levi, cited earlier, who hold that if one slaughters a sheep of Shavuot not for his own sake, it is nevertheless valid. The Gemara discussed the opinion of Rav Naaman, who maintained that the Tana of the school of Levi holds that a sheep of Shavuot slaughtered not for his own sake is valid because he derives his halach from that of a voluntary peace offering. Come and hear what Levi teaches to the contrary, as Levi teaches the guilt offering of a Nazarite, i.e. the lamb he brings on the 8th day after becoming impure through the contact with a corpse, and the guilt offering of a leper, i.e. the lamb he brings at the completion of his purification, the one slaughtered not for their sake are valid. Shechatan shelo lishmon, the guilt offering of a Nazarite or the guilt offering of a leper that was slaughtered not for its own sake does not satisfy the obligation of the owner, but it may be eaten. This is according to the opinion of Levi. In the Sefer Vod Hilchot Menachot 15:20 are valid, but they did not satisfy the obligation of the owner. If one slaughtered them when the time had not yet arrived for the owners to sacrifice these offerings, or they were in their second year instead of their first year, and one slaughtered them, they are disqualified. The Gemara comments, if it is so that Levi derived the halacha of an obligatory offering from the voluntary offering, let him derive the halacha of a guilt offering and that of a peace offering, in which case the guilt offering should be valid even if they were in their second year. The Gemara answers, Levi derives the halacha concerning an obligatory offering and the halacha concerning a voluntary peace offering, but he does not derive the halacha concerning a guilt offering and the halacha concerning a peace offering. The Gemara further challenges the statement of Rav Naaman. If Levi derives the halacha of an obligatory peace offering and that of a voluntary peace offering, then similarly derive the halacha of one guilt offering from that of another guilt offering. He should derive that the guilt offering of Nazarite and the guilt offering of leper are valid, even if the animals in the second year, from the halacha concerning the guilt offering for robbery and the guilt offering for misuse of confiscated property, which are supposed to be a ram in its second year. Or if one brought a lamb in its first year as a guilt offering for robbery or a guilt offering for misuse of confiscated property, maybe should derive that it is valid from the halacha concerning the guilt offering of a Nazarite and the guilt offering of a leper, which are lambs in their first year. Shimi Ba'ashi said, one can derive the halacha with regard to an item that is prepared not in its valid manner, e.g. the sheep or shur that was slaughtered not for their own sake, from the halacha with regard to another item that is prepared not in its valid manner, e.g. a voluntary peace offering, so it's not for its own sake. But one cannot derive the halacha with regard to an item that is prepared not in its valid manner, e.g. the guilt offering of a Nazarite or leper that is sacrificed when it is in the second year, from the halacha with regard to an item that is prepared in its valid manner, e.g. a guilt offering for robbery or for misuse of consecrated property that is sacrificed when it is in its first year. The Gemara asks, and cannot one derive the halacha with regard to disqualified offerings from the halacha with regard to fit offerings? Within the Torah Brayso, from where is it derived with regard to an item that left the temple courtyard, and was thereby disqualified, that if it nevertheless ascended upon the altar, it shall not descend? It is derived from the fact that an item that is left is valid for sacrifice on a private altar. Here the Brayso derived the halacha with regard to a disqualified offering from the halacha with regard to a fit offering. I hope that made sense. I was a bit rushed at the end. Wish you a very good day and peace in Israel. All the best. Bye.